Hey, friend, welcome to the Trend Report. Thanks for joining me today for another installment of our CEO Chat series. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Susan Pilato with Mantra Inspired Furniture. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sid Meadows, and I'm a business leader, coach, and a consultant, and a longtime student of the office furniture industry. And in this podcast, we have powerful conversations with industry leaders and innovators and others that are making an impact in their business and our industry. You know, my goal is simple: to provide you with valuable insights, information, and resources to help you grow and your business grow. But before we dive into today's conversation, I really want to take a moment and share two reviews that we got recently. The first is from Paula, who left us a 5-star rating and a review that says, "Not just furniture trends." And I quote, "I love how conversations on furniture trends can have a whole different meaning and resonate in a way you never expect. It's like a different version of business class, but including a mindset check." Thank you, Paula, for that rating and review. We really appreciate you. And this one from C Ford. Now, I know that C Ford is a longtime listener of the show. And Chris, I really appreciate you leaving us a review and a rating. He gave us a 5-star rating, and the review says, "Excellent show with great insight. This show has a lot to offer. Great guests with helpful insights into the industry, and Sid provides great interview skills, coaching for listeners, and ideas on how the industry can improve for the future. In short, this podcast is well worth the time invested." Chris, thank you for leaving that review as well. We really appreciate you. As you guys know, ratings and reviews help our show get discovered by other listeners. So if you haven't done so yet, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. And with all of that, no longer delaying, let's get into today's CEO chat with Susan. Susan, welcome to the show. And I want to start off with a question straight away. Who is Mantra?
No. Well, it's a team of pretty awesome people. We actually, we provide solid wood commercial furniture, which is unfortunately has been a dying craft for the last 20 years, and we're trying to bring it back. So yes, we do tables, but we also do desks, and that's where you really don't see a lot of solid wood desk anymore. But we're bringing that back, and excited to do that. And we're doing it with a little bit of a twist because we are designers. So we're having a lot of fun with it, and we've got some fun things coming up for Neocon. So I won't give away too much, but we've got something that's pretty unique that I think that might be interesting to a lot of designers and end users.
Oh, that's a great little tease there. I like that quite a bit. So, Susan, my first question is, why solid wood? What was the draw to solid wood furniture? Because in
Yeah.
our industry, we hear a lot of things about sometimes the good, but also the bad about solid wood. And obviously, as an industry, we talk a lot about particle board and veneers and stuff like that. So why solid wood?
Great question, because I would not have known the answer to that when I started out in this career as a designer.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a lot of fear put into using wood, right? We don't want to take down the trees, blah, blah, blah. And I've learned so much. And because I'm a designer, I want to share the knowledge that I've learned. And the reason solid wood, to answer your question, my company, as I mentioned, we're designers. So we have another company that has a wonderful client that standardized on solid wood furniture by Harden Furniture years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've seen firsthand how solid wood furniture lasts.
Mm-hmm.
This particular company has over 50 facilities. We've lost 2 solid wood desks in all their history of 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the other furniture that they had at the very beginning, they had a mix where they just had to order real quick. And I won't mention the manufacturers, but they were MDF with veneer, long gone. Didn't make it because of the moves, and it would disintegrate after a time. So we experienced this firsthand, and we help with the facilities team with our own crew, and so we know how to move solid wood furniture, and have done it quite often, and where you can just screw it back together, not a problem. Where with MDF or particle board, you can't do that.
Crumbles, yeah.
Right, crumbles. So about 2016, 2017, unfortunately, we started hearing that Harden was in trouble. We knew these people and they were wonderful,
Mhm.
still are wonderful. And Greg Harden, such a great man. But he reached out to us to let us know things weren't going well. A private equity firm got involved, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, they were wiped out.
Mhm.
Um, we went into a panic because our client, I mean, we have all these facilities. We don't want to lose that ability to do
Sure.
solid wood. And when we started our research, we were shocked that no one does solid wood desks. No one.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And we're like, how can this be? And so we started digging into the research, and I love to learn.
Mhm.
And it started when all of our manufacturing went overseas and things were done cheaper and less
Mhm.
quality, the fast furniture kind of idea. So we said, wow, we're in a pickle here. So we already had a relationship with two Mennonite gentlemen, and we were doing custom work. We went to them and we're like, let's fire up the Amish workshop, see if we can get this done. And we did. And the furniture's beautiful. And so then we were like, well, wait a minute, we're designers. What if we do some, things that are a little bit
Those
different?
creative brain starts working,
We started
right? Like
thinking like,
ideas.
think we can create our own company here.
Uh-huh.
So we did.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
that started in 2018.
Mhm.
And so, and then what we realized we really needed to educate people because to your point, you're like
Yep.
solid wood, we're not supposed to use it. It's really actually a very healthy thing to use because it's wood, it's true wood, and
Mhm.
it's holding carbon. And this you can use plywood as a substrate. That's still solid wood. So
Yep.
we're trying to teach that. And as we're with responsible forest, and we really
Mhm.
have that in the US,
Yep.
and all of our wood is American hardwood. As you go through that cycle of, all right, you're harvesting these trees, you're allowing for new growth, that they are the ones that are sucking in that carbon. So you
Mhm.
want that turnover because as a tree grows older, kind of like us,
Mhm.
not as good at things, like pulling that carbon in. So, you
I
gotta
love
have
how you tied
younger,
us into that, by the way. I do love that.
you gotta have the
So
Gen Z,
yeah, that's right.
trees, right?
So I want to go back for a second. And I started my career at an office furniture dealership in 1990. I'm not going to say it out loud. so, we sold Harden.
Mhm.
And you want to talk
Oh,
about beautiful furniture. Oh my
yes.
gosh, it is absolutely gorgeous, stunning. And they had at the time my favorite executive chair. And I still can see it today. Like it was so beautiful back then. And they were an amazing company that made absolutely beautiful
Oh,
product. And I
yes.
love how you worked with them and you took something bad that happened, very unfortunate that happened, but does happen to a lot of companies. And you turned it into something very positive for you and to your customers and founded Mantra Inspired Furniture, where you specialize in solid wood. And I want to ask a follow-up question about responsible foresting. What does that actually mean? Can you describe that term for us? Because we don't hear that a lot in our industry.
Yeah, and that's why we're out there trying to talk about this. So what that means, and I know that many people aren't in love with regulations, the amount of regulations we have in this country.
Mhm. Yep.
But really, we're very fortunate to have these regulations in our country because that's why we need that FSC certified for, especially for wood that's coming from other
Afar.
countries,
Yeah.
because they're not as responsible. In our country, uh, for one, we don't have um, like the Amazon or of lumber, right? It's really small businesses. You've got the landowners, you've got the harvesters, you've got the lumbermen. So you're servicing a lot of small business in the
Mhm.
lumber industry, and you've got softwood and hardwood. I speak to the hardwood side because that's what I know best. And there are a lot of regulations because we don't want to over harvest or strip.
Yep.
But a lot of keeping in mind too, neither do the people that are in the business. They don't want to do anything that's going to harm their crop.
Sure.
So much like agriculture, what we call in our world is silviculture. So they're very, and they're just getting better and better and better at understanding how to harvest and how to the wood appropriately so that the rest of the forest continues to grow, because it's just this continuous cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are also companies that are that are in our country that are taking the felled wood from development. Okay, so that's our worst offender to forests. It's not
Wow.
the lumbermen. It's not our industry. It's where they're just wiping out areas. Well, what's
Sure.
happening is that wood is being reclaimed back into the system, and you can make lumber out of it for homes. You
Yep.
can make it for people like us for
Mm-hmm.
furniture so that we can use it. So there's more attention to that. So this is a good thing, right? This
Got
is
it.
this is where we're paying more attention. And that to me is what's considered
Mhm.
responsible harvesting.
Okay. And I think it's important. I certainly had a lot of visuals as you were describing that. And so responsible forestry, I'm going to recap it if I could talk this morning. Is it's responsibly harvesting trees from a forest, not clear cutting the entire land and harvesting all of the trees,
No,
because the idea is to promote regeneration and regrowth of trees so that we continue to have them, in your case, to furnish or to harvest them in order to have to make the products that you make, right? And
that's right.
so the opposite, clear cutting, is what the big boxes are doing to provide lumber and all other work surfaces and all other kind of things.
Yeah, so in other countries, there is clear cutting that happens,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very short-sighted to do
Yep.
that, because think about it, you do that, and then what have you done? You're going to be waiting 150
Yep.
years for it. So when it's done correctly, you just have this continual
Sure.
source.
Yep.
What's I'll tell you what's really interesting. So, and this is how forest has a direct impact on design and what is being chosen. So white oak really was the hot, and still is the
Mm-hmm.
hot wood, right? Hot commodity in wood world. Um, that was a cheaper wood. It's now more expensive. You see the prices are ticking up.
Mm-hmm.
Same with walnut. Okay. Cherry, believe it or not, is at the bottom rung as expense. However, you're gonna start seeing, so you're gonna start seeing more cherry out there. And we're already saying, it was interesting, I saw some plastic laminate samples came out recently, and they brought back all this cherry. So see, people, they're smart. They're
Mm-hmm.
seeing, they're watching the lumber prices, how, because that is
Sure.
going to affect us. Cherry's beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, we have it in our line. The natural cherry, I love that wood. Just
Yeah.
the way it just it continues to get warmer and warmer
Mm-hmm.
as it gets
Yeah.
older. So it, the design world is really affected by what's available in the forest,
Mm-hmm.
and what's more expensive and what's less expensive, where the supply and demand is.
Yep.
So
Starts
it's
driving
fun.
decisions because
Yeah,
so many decisions are based on price
that's right.
points of things, right?
Mhm.
So I want to keep going forward, and I really want to understand, share with us how you got the name Mantra Inspired Furniture. So you make hardwoods, you're in Virginia, you're doing really good things. How'd you come up with the name?
So, you know, when you're doing something new, and it's like, okay, what in the world? What are we going to call this thing? So my business partner and I were on our way to a meeting in New York. So that morning, I'm getting ready, and it just popped in my head. What if we called it mantra, after my father's mantra that he gave me when I graduated from college? And so I brought it up to Donna on the plane. I'm like, hey, what do you think about mantra? And she said, I like it. She said, what if you say mantra inspired furniture? Because the furniture is being inspired by the mantra. Like,
Mm.
bingo, there's our name.
I love
So,
how organically really good names get discovered, right?
yeah,
And how you come up with them. I think it's really, really cool. And the two of you together after something that your dad left you, tell us about that letter. Your dad wrote you a letter as you're graduating from college. Tell us about that letter.
he did. And so I still have that letter, of course. And It's in cursive, which is a lost
For
art, right?
those younger ones that aren't listening, you probably don't know what cursive is.
What,
Sorry,
yeah, what
making
does
a
that
joke,
mean?
right?
Yeah. So, but at that time, he knew, I mean, since I was 5 years old, I'm going to have my own business one day. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to have my own business. I just had, I had this little miniature briefcase I'd carry around, and I'd spread papers on my
Mhm.
desk because that's what business people do, right? You
Right.
have a bunch of papers, you carry a briefcase. So anyway, so Dad knew, that one day, and I'll tell you, he and I became very close. My mother passed away when I was 13.
Mm,
Brother and sister were out of the house, so it was just the two of us. And he he would bring me to like networking things that he did. He owned a car dealership with
mm,
two other partners, and you taught me how to look people in the eye and shake the hand. And
mhm.
I was so nervous, but he put me in those positions, and I'm glad
Sure.
he did because it helped me to understand, what to
Mhm,
do. And so he when he wrote me this letter, I had decided at that time I had worked for an architect, and this is pretty soon after college.
mhm.
Worked for an architect, and I knew that one day I knew I was going to do something, and I needed to understand marketing and sales. I needed to understand that side of it.
Yep.
So I went to work for a dealership, and that's when he sent me this letter and let me know how suited he felt like I was to go
Mhm,
into marketing, and he said, I've kept this small piece of paper with me, and it was the first time I'd ever seen this. I've kept this with me as a reminder. And he was a very principled man. I
mhm.
just adored my father. And it was the 8 mantras, and like, do it now, say something nice to everyone you meet, enthusiasm, moderation, drive carefully, which kind of cracks me up because he was a car dealer,
Yep.
um, and organization and appearance. And I think I'm missing one of them.
Keep on trying.
Keep on trying. Thank you. One of the
Yeah.
most important ones.
I have
Yes.
them
Oh,
up right
thank
here
you.
on the website, so I'm
Oh,
watching.
thank you.
Yeah, it's
So,
great.
yeah, and the keep on trying is something that really stands out to me because that's what you do with business, right? And
Mhm.
design. You just keep on because sometimes it's not going to work, and so you
Yep.
got to keep on trying. So that's where that came from. And
So I love that it's a legacy from your father. It's a note that he carried around to remind himself
Mhm.
of these things. And then he passes that on to you, knowing that your future is going to be involved in being an entrepreneur, being a business owner and a business leader. And I'm just going to recap the 8 because I think they're very important that you can use in business, but also in life. The lines are definitely blurred there. So do it now. Be cheerful and optimistic. Say something nice to everyone you meet. Oh, I could talk about that one all by
I know.
like, oh, I could talk about that one. The next one is enthusiasm, organization and appearance, moderation, drive carefully, and keep on trying. So, what a great gift your dad left you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great gift.
It was. And he um he lived long enough to see me. He did not see the mantra
Hmm.
business, but he saw the success that Donna and I had over the years, and he saw our struggles, he saw our failures, but he saw our successes, and the fact that I had this man believe in me so much,
Yep.
um, I just felt like I could do it. And I think that's an important message to all the fathers out there that have daughters.
Hmm.
I am so grateful. Yes, you.
Hmm. I just raised
Um,
my hand.
yeah. Um, yeah. When you have a daughter as a father, the mother's role is so important, obviously.
Yeah.
But as a father, because we're going to be walking into these rooms with men,
Hmm.
having a strong father who believes in you and says, you can do this, you can do this,
Yep.
go for it all. I can't even begin to tell you what that does
Mm.
for a young girl
That's
and
right.
the confidence,
Hmm.
and also to draw those firm boundaries
Hmm.
as well.
Sure.
And the father really teaches that as well as the mother, but my father really gave me the confidence to
Hmm.
draw that boundary for myself. So it men have an important, and and it could be a brother. Yeah,
Yep.
if you don't have a father, brother or husband. I have a great husband who is very supportive
Yep.
of everything that I do, and choose your partners carefully,
That's
young
right.
ladies.
That's right. So, Susan, I'm curious, and I want to keep moving forward, but why the Amish? You
Mm.
mentioned Amish and the Mennonites very briefly. So you saw the business opportunity, knew you wanted to do hardwoods, knew the resources for it, and you went to the Mennonites and the Amish to make furniture. Why there?
That I mean, who are the original craftsmen in America, right? Like,
Yeah,
other than the Native Americans, they truly were. But
sure.
when you're talking about the the United States, and you think about when you think about quality craftsmanship, that that culture comes to mind pretty quickly, right?
Mhm.
Um, so we we were very, very fortunate to have the relationship that we had. And I got to tell you, the first time that we went out there to meet with the workshops that are doing our work, um, I was a little nervous, not about meeting them, but making sure that I didn't do anything that might have been, like that, we now I wore makeup. I do have draw my line there. But I talked to Jonathan and James, who they have an iPhone, they have
Mhm.
iPad, they have all that. The Amish workshops do not, and certain
Mm.
ones were a little more strict than others, and it's kind of, as James explained it to me, it's like, this is like the Baptist, they like have, there's a
Mhm.
wide range of
Right.
conservative to a little bit more liberal, and so, but they were so welcoming, and I wondered if it's something like, here we are women, are going to
Yeah.
be like, they were so gracious, so welcoming. If I could walk into every room like that with, and
Sure.
these were all men, but there were a lot of women that work in these workshops. It's
Mhm.
it's a very, it's like a, who can do the work? What
Mhm.
makes sense here? Let's get together
Sure.
and not focus on, oh, you're a woman, you're a man. You can
Mm.
So the I've learned a lot, and there's what's really interesting too. They're so far off the grid. We hear a lot of noise. You get up in the morning, you switch on the news, or you don't. But it's hard to not be affected by
Mhm.
it. They are not affected because they don't know anything. Like, they're
Wow.
in their own world. They focus so much on quality. It's just part of their makeup.
Mhm.
It's part of the culture. So you may have one group that really focuses on what we call plank up, where you take the lumber, you glue it up, and it becomes a plank. That goes to the next guy, the workshop that's planing it down into the size of surfaces or what have you, or
Mhm.
panels that we need. Then it goes to another to assemble. They have their specialties. So you've got the
Mm.
finish. So it's not an all one big
Sure.
factory. We have the ability to use different ones for their specialty um, for our
Yep.
design. So we're
Yep.
not honed in on, we only can do
You're
this.
not constrained by the capabilities of a factory
Right,
necessarily, right? Yeah.
exactly. Or by the constraints of waiting for product to come
Yeah.
in from other sources. So
Sure.
everything, like I said, it's all American made. So that's been quite
Mhm.
a benefit.
So one of the things that I really appreciate about the story that you just shared, Susan, is the fact that there's a message and a lesson in there for all of us. Um, you are being respectful of their culture.
Mhm.
You are being respectful of who they are by researching, investigating, asking questions before you went in there. And I think that's really important. We could all learn a lot from, and the world might be a little bit better place if we would all learn to be respectful of other people's beliefs and cultures, even though
Mhm.
they may be different than ours. So I applaud you for doing that and leading the way with that, because I think that's really, really important.
Well, thank you.
So, Susan, we talked about this in our pre-interview. Most of you know that I have a pre-interview with every guest just to chat about the show and what's going on, all that kind of good stuff. And when we chatted earlier, we talked about the importance of women in our industry. And we talked a little bit about women in certain roles and, those kinds of things. And I'd really like your thoughts of encouragement or thoughts about women in our industry and how women in our industry can move their careers forward. That's a really big question. I know that, but let's talk about that. Women in the
Yeah,
industry.
I would love to because I'd like to see more women leaders. We do have a lot of women in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't have enough of are women leaders. And I did not realize that when we created Mantra Inspired Furniture, that we would be at such a minority of where there's only 3% of all manufacturers and commercial manufacturing that are either women-owned or women-led. Um, that that is that's got to be changed.
It's shocking is what that is, right?
Yes, thank you. It's shocking.
3% of businesses in our industry are women owned or women led.
Mhm.
That's shocking.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
you're right. That needs to change.
it does need to
Mm-hmm.
change, and I don't say this because I think women are so much better. We add so much. I mean, the balance.
Mm-hmm.
And, also we're very monochromatic. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the issue too. I mean, we I interviewed a young man last week and again yesterday. And I to protect him, but he is, oh, he's just wonderful, so smart.
Mm-hmm.
And because of what he looks like, he could have easily been overlooked because, and I
Mm-hmm.
know this because I've
Mm-hmm.
been in the industry a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
And what a loss. Well, it's our gain, I hope. I mean,
Sure.
we are, just to let the secret out of the bag. We did send him an offer letter last night, so I'm hoping
Yep.
I'm hoping he will join us. But I think of how businesses lose out on not incorporating more women leaders, more people of color. And here's why I feel this way. You're really you are not taking advantage of the experiences,
Mm-hmm.
the life experiences, the creativity, the line of thought to balance it all out to create a better company because you
Mm-hmm.
will. In the end, you will have a better company. And it's been proven over and over. The companies that do that, they rise right on up to the top. So you can tell I feel very passionate about
Mm-hmm.
this. But I've seen it firsthand. I
Mm-hmm.
have seen it firsthand, and so often I've seen women's ideas shut down, or ignored because, quite frankly, we're still that other coming into the room that
Mm-hmm.
the foundation has been men for so long that it's like, what do you, I mean, there is a board that I'm on years ago when I first got on there. I could feel these guys looking at me like, are you going to bring me my name tag or my coffee? Like, why are you here? And then, I'm entering the boardroom and they're like, huh, she's coming in here with us. Now it's
She's
very
coming to sit at
different.
the table.
Yeah, she's coming to sit
Come
at the
sit at the
table.
table.
And and I stayed quiet for a while, and now I speak more
Mm-hmm.
often about things. Um, and that's the other thing is on all sides, we need to be able to speak and feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable speaking, and and also there's a responsibility in hearing what that person has to say.
100%.
And that goes
Mm-hmm.
for all of us, not just one gender, not one color.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and the more that we hear, that's where creativity happens. I
Sure.
mean, I can tell you, I see it when when our team is like churning out some idea. It's so much fun. But if you close your idea off, or you close your mind off, I'm sorry, if you close your mind off, that's where the ideas then are just, bouncing
Mm-hmm.
off and go into oblivion because, and you lose,
Yep.
you lose out in the long run.
So lots of thoughts there. Thank you for sharing all that. I think there's a couple of things that stick out to me. The first is, well, you talked about diversity. And I am a huge proponent of what you described as bringing diverse people with diverse ethnicity, backgrounds, education, job titles, job functions around the table to have ideas, to share ideas, because some of the best ideas come from not the people that sit at the top, but the people that are actually in the factory working or selling
Yeah.
your product day to day. I mean, so embrace that in order to fuel the growth of your business. I think that is so important. I've talked about that for a long time. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I see you want to say something. Yeah.
Well, it's like we just recently, and we did this as a company, we just recently read Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. And one of the things he talked about was um, how Albert Einstein was a professor and how he was awful as a professor. The
Okay.
reason, yeah, because his mind was so advanced. I mean, like what he couldn't relate to these young freshmen and sophomores coming into college, like,
Mhm,
and they're listening to him like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because he forgot how to communicate to
mhm,
that. To me, translates into remembering that you you as we grow as leaders,
mhm,
do we really remember, or do we and not even remember, but because so much is changing and so much is new, when say like in a project assistant, what their day is like, does a CEO really have any idea? No,
mhm,
not really. And if you don't bring those people to the table, it's kind of like that disconnect between Albert Einstein and the students. He's going to make all these decisions without talking to the students to say, he's going to continue to be a bad professor
yep,
because he's not finding out how to teach.
mhm,
So how do you lead without talking to people's experiences and hearing them and embracing those ideas into your systems or your
mhm.
designs or whatever that is? So, I mean, this goes not just with our industry, it's any
Any,
company.
it works anywhere. Correct. It works
Yeah.
anywhere. It works for anybody. The other thing that I think I would say, first off, let me somewhat thank you for giving me yet another book that I need to read, because I got a whole stack over here of unread books. But every time somebody mentions a book, I go get it. We will drop the information about Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, amazing author and speaker. We'll drop that in the show notes for everybody. So yeah, I'll go probably order it today. So thank you,
Great,
Susan.
great.
But the thing I wanted to add to it is, I mean, I love the mission, I love the passion, but I'm going to talk to the men in the room. It is
Okay.
our job to support this initiative. It is our job to lift up the women in our lives and the women in our businesses so that their voice can be heard. It is our job to give them that opportunity. And I'm going to say that with a lot of passion, as the husband of a very successful woman who has had many, many fights in her life to get to where she is today, and the dad of a young adult daughter who is about to embark on a journey of finding her place in the world and speaking up. And I believe that we have it is our duty to help lift up the voices of the women and underserved in our industry, if I said that correctly.
Wow, thank you so much, Sid. What I call that, what you just said, and what I call you is an ally. And that's exactly what we need, more allies in the
Mhm.
room.
Yeah,
And I thank you so much for saying that so passionately, because I can tell you, I mean, you really feel this with everything
yep,
that you are.
I do.
And it's you are you are the people that will get us in that room.
Mhm.
You help us become more holistic
Yeah.
as a community,
Mhm.
as organizations, and as passionately as you feel about the men, and I couldn't agree with you more. I'd like to say the same to white people with how that belonging, helping
Mhm.
others feel that we all belong. And when I say others, I hate even saying that word, because there should not be an other. It should be just us. And the only way we're going to do that, it's this DEI thing where it's all on the shoulders of our African American brothers and sisters. Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
We're the ones
Mhm.
that need to do this. We're the
Mhm.
ones that need to do the work.
Yep.
They've had to endure long enough. So thank you. Thank you,
Mhm.
thank you for saying that.
Oh,
And I
you're
do
welcome.
consider you an ally. The first time we met and I got off the phone or the Zoom call with you, it was like, oh yes, thank you. I just,
But
oh,
I have no agenda with it, right? I
I
mean, that's the
know.
thing about it. And I'm supporting the women in my life and the
Mm,
women in my business, right? Because it's the right thing to do.
right.
But I will also say to the men out there, just because you're supporting a woman doesn't mean that it hurts you,
No. Oh
right?
yeah.
It actually can help you. And I think that's why so many people, again, my soapbox, Susan, sorry.
No.
But I think that's why so many people don't do things is because they think by supporting someone else, it hurts them in their opportunities. Guys, the world would be such a better place if we all helped each other, right? If we all lifted each other up and helped each other grow.
Oh my goodness. So true. And it would cure so many things that ail us
Mhm.
as a country
Yep.
right now if we did that. And, you know, and remembering that we're human, you know, it's just that seems to
Mm-hmm.
have been lost in so much of the rhetoric that you
Mm-hmm.
hear. And it's so important to remember that, you know, that whole walking in someone else's shoes. Um, eh, you can't really do that,
Yep.
oh, truly, but you can at least try to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very least, ask,
Mm-hmm.
you know, have a
Yeah.
conversation, ask questions. You know, it's not that hard.
Mm-mm. So my favorite fictional character, my favorite, excuse me, I have a sweatshirt that says it. And some of you may know that I'm talking about the famous or infamous Ted Lasso. He, my favorite fictional character. I love soccer, but be curious, not judgmental.
Yes.
Be curious, not judgmental. And
Love
Susan, I love this conversation, but I want to keep us moving forward because I think we could probably stay on this for a while. But I want to kind of add to it as an industry, we struggle with bringing people with diverse backgrounds into our industry. There are very few minorities, whether they are African American or American Indian, whatever that Asian, whatever it might be, inside of our industry. Most of the people in our industry look like you and me,
yes,
right?
that's right.
How do we attract new and young people to this amazing industry?
Mhm,
Like as a leader in the industry, I mean, what are your thoughts? How do we bring people that look differently than us into this really dynamic industry?
mhm. So the I'll sum it up into one word, and it's intention. You've got
Mhm.
to be intentional. If that's what you really want, and we did that with our company, and
Mhm.
it it's interesting when you put it out there in the, I'll just say, the universe. It's amazing, like how the universe will answer back to you. And
Mhm.
we've been given. It's not that we went out and said, "Okay, we're just going to go out and we're going to hire all African Americans." You know, it's
Mhm.
not. But it was
Right.
like we know this needs to happen, and opportunities presented themselves naturally.
Right.
And we have it's continuing to grow, and so I think intention is one. I had our group get. I had a meeting
Mhm.
with the young women that are people of color in my company, and I said, "This is a safe place. I've got some questions. Ask me questions as well, but talk to me. Talk to me about how. Why did you become an interior designer? How did you even get that in your head?" And what came back to me, some of the young ladies said that, and it reminded me of what you hear from the Indian culture that are, you know, have immigrant or
Mhm.
have are immigrants here, and their parents want them to be doctors or lawyers. You know, we brought you over here to this country to be a doctor or
Yeah.
lawyer.
Mhm.
That so some of the young ladies feel the same way in their culture that it's, well, if you're going to go to college, why would you be an interior designer? Why wouldn't you be an architect? Why wouldn't you be a doctor? Why wouldn't you be a lawyer? Why are you just doing that? Well, interior design is a wonderful industry and it has a broad spectrum of areas that you can go in, right?
Mhm.
So we need as an industry to get that out there in a way that they see it, and I say they, that all people
Mhm.
see it as a industry that you can grow, that you can do wonderful things. When I was at Virginia Tech, I had people constantly say, "That's a major? Interior design's a major?" So we gotta help the interior designers. Um, and some of that's still happening. And
Yep.
it, especially with the school, if they're in a school of architecture, they're kind of, it's almost like a caste system, or it
Yep.
is a caste system, or they're the lower where, you know, my nephew is an architect at HKS, so he and I have had these discussions, but
Mhm.
he really sees the value in interiors. He's like, that's their world every day. That's not
Mhm.
my world.
Yep.
My world's over here. So you bring these two experiences together, you're going to get a better design.
Mhm.
So elevating that, oh, you're just an interior designer kind of nonsense. It's a great industry. So that's part of it right there. And it's intentional. We've got to be more intentional
Mhm.
about talking about it.
I think the
So
same actually applies for the office furniture world as well, because I
absolutely.
tell people all the time, what do you do? I said, I work in office furniture. And they're like, that's a thing. I'm like, how do you think all these buildings got furnished? I mean, where do you think they just like magically,
Yeah,
bewitched? She just twitched her
right.
nose and the building appeared with furniture. No, there's a whole industry out there doing amazing creative things. You included, Susan. I love what you guys are doing. You said something in our pre-interview. I have it written down, and it's just the right way to wrap this up. We all have a story, and I really appreciate you sharing your story today with me and with the listeners and giving us a glimpse inside of mantra inspired furniture. I'm so excited to actually meet you in real life in June at
Yes,
Neocon. So tell us, you're going to be on the seventh floor,
we
right?
are. We're going
Seventh
to be
floor.
at
Okay.
7046 is our booth.
7046. Okay,
Yes,
great.
right there, close to the elevators and the women's bathrooms.
And you teased us with something going to be really cool there. So we'll make sure that we put all that information in your website and your contact information into the show notes for everybody to have. But Susan, thank you again so much for everything that you shared today and giving us a glimpse inside of your business. And I think another appropriate way to wrap up today's conversation is with a message from your dad, which is say something nice to everyone you meet today, guys. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Everybody go out there and make today great and have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.